there is an increase of activity in some parts of the brain which are involved with processing, attention and language. The research were also conducted by a team at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, that is the NTNU, who now suggest there needs to be some sort of a national guidelines across the world in various countries to ensure that children are receiving some handwriting lessons to make sure that they are connected with the present scenario, and also they do not really completely rely on digital devices. Now, talking about this particular recent study, the recent study examined brain activity in around 12 young adults and 12 children for the first time, and the team analyzed children in particular. EEG was used to track and record brain waves activity, and using a hood fitted with more than 250 electrodes which were attached to the outer lining. Now, the electrodes were designed to pick up electrical pulses produced by the brain, and each examination took 45 minutes per person, and the researchers received 500 data points per second. The results shockingly showed that the brain in both youth and adults, and all of these children that were involved in the study, is much more active when writing by hand than when typing by a keyboard. To speak to us more about this particular study and also help us understand what exactly can parents and children view this as, and how exactly can we derive this particular study, I've got our expert for the day, Ms. Pallavi Tomar, who is joining us live for this interaction. First of all, thanks a lot, Dr. Pallavi, for joining us. What do you make of this particular study? It's pretty much like a scientific nod to something that we already know. Digital reliance is something that is not good for the long term, in the long term.
Hi Ashish, thanks for having me. Okay. I think the study that you've shared and the results of it actually make a lot of sense, right? And here, so specifically, they compared typing on a keyboard or watching something on a screen versus pen and paper. And what they found is that there was enhanced learning in children who were writing with pen and paper. Now, if I just keep the technical jargon aside, right, an easy way to really understand is that the more proactively involved when I'm in a certain act, which in this case is writing, the better I'm able to focus on the task to begin with, right? If we just think about it, when we're learning something on a screen, watching something on a screen, it's still something in which we're a little bit more passive. When we are writing, we're actually engaging many and various senses to begin with, right? It's not just an act of looking at something, it's also tactile, it's also spatial, there's also the kinesthetic aspect of my fingers moving a certain way, which along with sight and sound, actually, if you see, would obviously make, various parts of the brain be more and more involved in the acts that we're doing. We're more engaged in it. And the more engaged we are in something, the better, the better we assimilate that information. So I think the basic point we need to make here is that learning is not a passive activity, which is not to say that our devices are bad and we should not use them at all. The aspect and the point being made here is of balance. And that we can't forget that human beings learn the best with more and more involvement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, Dr. Pallavi, one another point that I wanted to make is that this is a very tricky situation for a lot of parents, because yes, you're talking about writing and then making sure you prepare notes and all of that instead of actually using digital devices. But the situation now after the lockdown is so tricky that even assignments have to be done online. A lot of all the activity from the school is also done online, and even children were not able to step outside to play. Every activity was shifted online. So in this sort of a scenario, what advice would you give to the parents and also the children watching right now? How should they derive the study, and what exactly, what sort of a sense should they make out of this?
See, I think presently these are difficult times. We are all trying to do the best we can. We are trying to make the best use of the resources available to us. Yeah. So again, here our devices are resources. So we do the work that we need to do. That has to go on. But again, how do we best take care of our children and students in this scenario? And I think again, we have to go back and understand this basic concept that our children learn the best when they're actually active participants in the act that they're doing, right? So it's not just by typing or watching something on a screen. We have to sort of get a bit creative. Whether it's a concept, you want to draw it out, right? You want to make diagrams to better understand what is the reason behind something and how it functions. So it's a more visual representation. Some actually remember a lot better if they do a certain experiment at home. So I would just urge parents to sort of get a bit creative, bit more involved, make certain activities around this, whether it's by writing, whether it's by doing a certain sort of an experiment, or engaging various senses in this aspect of learning. But of course, because everything is online right now due to the pandemic, I mean, these are difficult times. We have to make the adjustments that we ought to presently.
Absolutely. And one question that, before we wrap up this discussion, one question is that What sort of long-term impacts could this have? Because yes, these are times that you've never seen before. Such online reliance and such online activity is something that even parents or children, of any generation wouldn't have seen. So, what could possibly be the long-term impacts if this continues for a long time?
See, I think that's very, very difficult to predict presently because this is unprecedented. We've never been in something like this with the kind of, I think, digitization which is available to us.
Yeah.
What it obviously has done is helped us realize that online also is a resource. We have access to so many more things right now in front of us thanks to technology, right? We're not isolated in that sense. We're actually able to reach family, friends, even learn. Our learning has continued. Let's say this happening 20 years back, our schools would have been shut and we couldn't have really continued our learning. So yes, this is a resource. But of course, there is a lot more, I think, anxiety and apprehension around the usage of screens that has increased. Are we really limiting our world to just that, our phones, our screens? And I think that's the impact that we need to be wary of and be watchful about. So again, the people that you're living with, parents, families, children, they need to find time away from these smartphones and computers to be able to actually engage with the real world, right? Because it's going to take some time for us to come back into normalcy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Pallavi, for joining us for this live interaction, and also clearly our expert there stating how this particular situation is unprecedented, and yes, for the foreseeable future, there seems to be no alternative, and this is something that we need to stick on to. So what do parents and children do in this time and age? Well, the only thing is to be more creative and also make sure that there are more offline activities compared to online ones, because yes, a lot of activity as far as schools and also playing is happening online, but at the same time, it is something that is not good for your health, for your physical health, for your mental health, and also for various reasons that we might find out in the long term. But clearly one option that is there is that we need to find out alternatives. We need to find out ways to engage children outside the digital life that they're living as of now, both in their school life and their personal life as well. So that is something that our expert also emphasized on. Do let us know what you think about this particular live interaction in the comment section below, and also do not forget to like, share and subscribe to News 9 Digital. Thanks for watching.